Hi, my name's Billy and welcome back to the shop. Super exciting day today because it's new tool day. This is a Jet drum sander and I have been wanting this thing forever. Not literally forever, but a long time. So I finally decided to bite the bullet and buy this because it was on sale, a couple $100 off plus free shipping. So I pulled the trigger and it just arrived a few days ago. I had to clean up a little bit so we can set this thing up. I figured I would record the unboxing of this while I set it up because some of you may be looking at buying this drum sander and you may want to know how it arrives and what kind of condition it looks like and how to set the thing up. So let's try it out. My drum sander came in 3 packages. I've got the stand, the drum sander itself, and then I also bought the wings that go on the outside. And I didn't know if I would use those, but I bought them anyway. All right. All the bolts, some adjustable feet, that's cool. And the base. I see no instructions on how to set the stand up, so I'm gonna guess the instructions are actually in the drum sander box. Can't be too complicated, can it? This was just heavy enough that it could not be delivered with typical like FedEx or UPS, so I did have to use a freight company, but they showed up with a lift gate and it was on a very tiny pallet. They wheeled it right up to my front door and then I just carried it into the shop. Oh, that new tool smell. There's very little packaging in this box here. I'll try to tilt it up for you. So it's essentially just sitting on a piece of plywood. There's no packaging material on the sides, but it's not moving anywhere. It's really, really heavy. What I'm seeing so far is that it comes with some sandpaper already on it. I don't know what grit it is. I wasn't expecting to have any sandpaper on the unit, so I actually bought a separate set of sandpaper. So, hey, that's a win for me. Operating manual and instructions. Yep, and it has the setup and assembly in here for the stand, it looks like. And I'm gonna have to make sure that I keep this somewhere that I can easily get access to because I have zero experience with a drum sander. Now, everyone tells me that it's a life-changing tool, so that's why I always wanted one. And I definitely know some things in my shop that will be greatly sped up by having this, but I don't know anything about it. I don't know anything about putting sandpaper on it. I don't know how to use one, so hey, I'm gonna learn it just like you are if you don't have one. All right, so I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start putting together the stand and then figure out how to put this bad boy on top of it. It weighs, according to the box, about 120 pounds. And then the stand weighs another 20 something pounds. So not incredibly heavy, but heavy enough to hurt yourself. So please be careful if you're putting this together, especially by yourself. Looks like I'm gonna need some sockets. It appears that a 12 millimeter socket is needed, or you could use a 1/2 inch too. I think that they used a pretty decent gauge steel. It doesn't feel like it has any sort of bend or flex to it. So that's really good, especially with a tool this heavy. That's one. Those are finger tight. Now we attach the long rails to them. Move this guy out of the way for a minute. Finger tighten all these bad boys. And then next, I think we put on the shelf. Yes, I am looking at the instructions. No, you are not a weenie if you read the directions on how to put something together. You're more knowledgeable. No, I do not have the attention span to read all of these, so I will probably skim. I know it might seem like a little thing, but the screws and the nuts go well together. And if you've ever used really cheap bolts, really cheap nuts, you know what I'm talking about? These just kind of glide on like butter. And I told you, it's a small thing, but I really appreciate it because if you've ever put together something that had crappy hardware, you know exactly what I'm talking about. All right. Now we're going to tighten this bad boy up. We've got a whole lot of bolts to tighten. Okay, so now it's time to apply the leveling feet. It came with these really thick rubbery ones, which are kind of cool. Now the written instructions say to put a nut on here and a washer, then stick it into the leg. But when you look at the diagram, it doesn't show this nut here. So just a warning, you're gonna have to add that. Another washer, another nut, then you're good to go. All right, let's flip it over. I think I'm gonna put mine here. I've got electrical outlets right here on each of my basement poles. And it's kind of right in between. I want to give myself enough room here at the router table and the CNC. My joiner is right over there. So I'm kind of thinking, when I set up my workshop, I try to make it so that I can easily move my work pieces from one station to the next. So I have my joiner next to my planer, next to my drum sander. And I also have my outfeed table over there. That way, if I want to set materials over on the side, I can. So I'm thinking right here is going to work best. I'm going to have to do another ductwork drop here for dust collection, but hey, we'll take care of that after we get this thing set up. Looks like I only had to adjust 1 foot. That's cool. It looks like what they did was they bolted the drum sander to some plywood, so I need to flip this thing over, unbolt it, flip it back. I decided that instead of having the drum sander this way, so my work pieces go this way, the same with the joiner and the planer, I think it'd be better for me to turn it to this side. That gives me plenty of room for me to put longer pieces in and then have a lot of room for them to go out that way. So I'm gonna try it this way first. And if I don't like it, I can always move it around. Also, the big plus about this is the motor will be right next to the pole. That's where the cord is. These are the brackets that hold the infeed and the outfeed tables. So I'm gonna take a bolt, go through the hole in the end, into the base of the sander. Then we'll attach the actual table itself. And then we're going to use a straight edge to make sure that we get everything aligned. Just gonna hand tighten all of the bolts for now until we get everything lined up, and then I'll snug it up with an Allen wrench. I got the outfeed tables attached, so now it's time to align them. Now, I was reading through the instructions, and what it said was to have your tables either align with the conveyor belt or slightly below it. Don't have it above it. You know, like some people will raise their outfeed tables on their planer a little higher to try to eliminate snipe. You don't want to do that with this because then you can actually sand a dip in your board. So how it recommended to do this was to take a straight edge, put it in the sander, then lower the sanding wheel on top of the edge. Then you can adjust your tables to match up with your straight edge. All right, I think we're all set up. So now let me show you some of the features on this machine. It's pretty straightforward. There's not a whole lot of features. We've got a latch here that we can turn to open up the top. That way we can get access to the sanding drum and change out the paper. It came with 80 grit paper on the machine. That's good because I bought 120 grit. It also has a 4-inch dust port. I plugged in the machine. We have 2 switches here. The on and off switch will turn on the drum. The knob will turn on the conveyor belt, and it has adjustable speed from 0 to 100. So we just click this and the conveyor belt is now moving, but the drum is not. Full speed, and it slows down. Looks like it doesn't really move past 10. Okay. Also, click this up and the drum will spin. I can say that I'm actually surprised at how quiet the machine is. Looks like we have a depth gauge right here. I lowered the drum all the way down to the conveyor belt and our gauge was exactly at 0, which is great, which means I don't have to adjust this scale at all. The adjustment handle also has a indicator here, so we can set that at 0. We know that 1 full turn is 1/16 of an inch. And what I can say is that it feels like it turns pretty well. It's not too loose, but it's not too tight, which is really good for dialing things in. Inside the sanding drum area, there's a little clip here on this side and clips on this side so you can put your sandpaper in, clip it down, and then rotate it around the drum. According to the instructions, you do not want to have any of your paper overlap. They either need to be touching or you can have a slight gap like what it came with the factory. One thing I really like is this little knob right here. This is for sanding panels that are wider than the drum. So you sand it through, you have part of it sticking off, then you turn the project around and run the other side through. And if you find that there's a ridge on your board, you can adjust this up or down until that ridge goes away. Then you know you're getting a flat board. Moment of truth, let's try it out. I don't have permanent dust collection set up yet, but this 4-inch hose that goes to my table saw did reach over here, so I could at least try it out. And let's really put it to the test. Let's do some ingrain. This is part of a plaid ingrain board that I made. This was, I think, box liners or I don't remember, but it's ingrain, so it's tough. It still has some glue on this side. I think this is gonna be an awesome test. All right, so let's look at our test board. So after I finished running it through the drum sander, I then went with a random orbit sander all the way up to 180 grit, and it is smooth as silk. Now, it took me maybe 20 minutes or so to sand this from pulling it out of the box through the drum sander all the way up to the grits. 20 minutes, which is phenomenal because Whenever I originally had this board and I was making an ingrain cutting board, so it was about this length, it took me over 3 hours to sand. So that's a huge time savings, and I'm really excited to be able to use this tool in my shop for my upcoming projects. Now, I do have to say, I am not affiliated with Jet whatsoever. I did not receive any sort of discounts from the company. They did not sponsor this video. This is solely me using my money to buy a tool that I wanted, and I figured you do the same thing, so let me show you my experience with it and setting it up, and hopefully that helps you out if you decide to buy this tool. So if you like this video, then please consider subscribing to the channel and hit the bell notification so you'll be alerted the next time I post a video. Until we meet again, get in your shop and build something awesome. Ow!